Welcome to an accelerator organization talk. What do we call these? Mentor session. I'm Joel Gandara, and oh, there we go. Hey guys, I'm Joel Gandara. Welcome, Accelerator Organization. Thanks, Sean, for having me. I am outside, as you see. We're in the quarantine environment. I've got a wife and 4 kids and a new puppy inside. So I'm outside, and every time I do my mentor sessions, I'll try to be out here. Except for summer's coming, it's going to be a little harder later. So bear with me. You might see the camera. I might move around a little bit, and I might have to reposition myself based on what the sun's doing as it's coming down here right now. So we're going to jump right into it. Excuse me while I might shake the camera just a little bit while I toggle to get to some really good questions. I had the opportunity to read a few of these before we got started, and I was really impressed. There's going to be more of them, so some of those I have not reviewed. However, the ones I did look at, I was really impressed. Let's get started. First one is from Robin Turbin. And the question is, as I work on perfecting my skills as an artist, I think about how I will network with my local community during these times of social distancing. There is an upcoming event where I plan to give out gifts of hope and calm. Do you have any other suggestions for networking locally during these times of social distancing in New York? Well, first of all, Robin, I hope that the social distancing thing and the no events and that sort of thing dies down sooner than later, because it can't go on forever. As you've seen, as most of us here have seen, it could be really disruptive to our businesses. But my thoughts here are think outside the box, right? Ask for referrals. I have friends who are artists and they sell their artwork. Sometimes they just get commissioned to make things, and other times they just have artwork that's for sale. So you got to ask for referrals. I think I'm not an artist. I've never worked closely with artists, but I think if you've got something to offer, you need to meet more people. And if you're not doing that through a website and paying for ads, then I would talk to people who you already know. Start with your circle, start with friends, family, past customers, and say, hey guys, I'm not able to reach as many people as I used to, and I have these limitations. I can't do events like I used to, that sort of thing. Who can you put me in touch with? Who can I talk to? Who can I explain what I do to? Right? And then you can start phone calls, emails, letters in the mail. Um, just reach out to as many people as you can. And ultimately, every time there's a challenge like this, you're definitely in a challenge. A lot of us are. Um, I just think, who wants this more? There's probably some artist who's competing with you for people's dollars who's doing these things. So try it all, try everything. And a year from now, you're going to say, you know what? I tried this, that didn't work. I tried this other thing, it didn't work. But one of these things really did. And that's what opened the door to get this person who then put me in touch with this person, and things open up. That's how it works. It feels like magic when it starts happening, but it's probably from the work you put in before. So again, question yourself, do I really want this? How bad do I want it? And am I going to go outside the box and start doing things that aren't traditional? That's my middle name. I don't do traditional things. I usually do things a little bit different than anybody, and that's kind of my secret success formula. So highly recommend doing that. Let's see here. Next question is from Alex Kwan, and he asks, "Is it necessary, or does it help to share your basic numbers such as overhead, fixed costs, with managing staff? The directors of our child care center are in charge of billing all of our clients, but they don't fully understand the cash flow. Do I share with them the amount it takes to break even and to be profitable, or do I just give them the number of enrollment required for those metrics?" Yeah, this is a great question, Alex. Um, everybody you ask is going to give you a different explanation and different answer. My way of doing business is yes, share. I like to share with my employees. I like to share if it's my right hand person and my people who I surround myself who really drive in business and really grow it. They have to see everything. In my operation, I have multiple people who see everything, and I mean the entire P&L on a granular level. They get to see my income. They get to see the net profit. They get to see everything. However, the reason I show them all that is because I give them a piece of the action. I give them a piece of the profit, off the net profit. So they need to see what that is. So I pay myself a fair salary, enough to max out for like Social Security, but not to be this massive salary to drain the net profit. So all that has to be kept um, in order. And then I prefer to show it to them, because to me, there's nothing else better than being an owner. Being an employee is not as exciting, right? But here's the problem I find from entrepreneurs that I coach and just when I have conversations with any entrepreneur. They usually have this thought and this complaint that they just can't find people who think like them, right? They're the owner and they want the whole staff to have ownership thinking. But guess what? You didn't give them ownership thinking. You got to blame yourself. Anytime there's a problem, look within first and say, what have I created? What have I, if I, have I formed a team of people who think like owners? No, odds are you haven't. Most people have not. Most people, they have this secret financials, and then they want everybody to work really hard. But guess what? You go to bed seeing the financials and knowing every detail. They just go and punch a clock and punch out. Have a finance meeting with them. Show them where you're at and say, and by the way, that's up to you. You can get it to the gross profit level. You can show operating expenses as well and get to net profit. It's up to you how much you want to show them. You can start with a little and see your level of comfortness and expand from there. But if you want your people to be on your side and everybody aligned and going in the right direction, they need more information. So you got to be careful. You don't want to open yourself up to more problems. But by the way, I probably know 20 to 30 entrepreneurs who show all their financials to every single employee in the organization. So you can go all the way this way with it or all the way that way. It's up to you. I personally like giving everybody a little bit of piece of the upside so that I don't have to worry. I don't have to go to my business. I go to my main business. I go about once a month. It's my biggest revenue generator. It's what I live off of easily off just that. And I go in about once a month. Why? Because the people in charge are properly compensated, not with a huge salary, but with a good bonus structure that doesn't have to do with hitting targets, but it has to do with getting a percentage all along the way. So good question, Alex. I like it. It's good thinking. Let's see what you do with that. All right, next question is from Marcus Woods. His question is about acquiring a business. And he says, I have worked in the area of communications for the better part of a decade. I have done everything in the industry except sales. I expressed an interest in owning a communications station, and he urged me to inquire with a businessman in my hometown about his succession plan, whether or not he will be passing the business on to his family or not. I was told if he was interested that he would help me obtain funding for the business in which I would start a group of stations throughout a designated area. Any tips on how I can initiate this conversation with the business owner? I'm contacting him cold without any personal contact. Okay, Marcus, good timing. Well, first of all, for the last 7 years or so, I've acquired 10 businesses, and all of them have started with a conversation. It's as simple as that. I haven't orchestrated this massive plan. I have not hired my attorney at this point. I have not hired consultants. I just have a conversation with somebody. It's simply a conversation, just like you build a relationship, personal relationship, business relationship. You got to have a conversation. Invite them to coffee, invite them to lunch. Before I forget, I'll give you an example today. I believe that commercial real estate is going to suffer right now because of the whole COVID thing, but ongoing for a little while. I think that telemedicine is going to hurt, um, and there's a purpose to me going around to tell you the story. But telemedicine will hurt medical offices. Let's see what else. Stores today, Pier One announced they're going to close something like 500 more stores additional. Right, everything's going online. So I believe warehousing is where it's at. By the way, horrible timing. In January, myself and a few friends closed on two good-sized commercial buildings that are medical offices. So we'll see how that investment goes. But we spent several $1,000,000 obtaining those, and we'll see. However, I think there's a massive opportunity in anything related to supplying e-commerce sites, warehousing. So today I reached out to a vendor of one of my businesses that sells us shelving for our warehouses. And I think it's a great opportunity to own a business like that. I think it's going to grow. I also think they've been managing it very poorly. We've sent them POs in the past and they haven't done a good job of filling them. They haven't been communicative. We have to send a PO 2, 3 times and follow up before they deliver what we're asking for. And it didn't happen like that under the previous owners. So today I called and left a message for the manager that runs sales, because that's really the only person I've known there. And I've told him that if he can put me in touch with the owner, I'd like to talk to him about possibly acquiring his business. And never hurts. We can have a conversation, see how that goes. I then called the previous owners, 3 generations owners of that business who sold it about 8 years ago, and I'm friends with. and I told him, hey, if you're interested in this, I'm going to start a conversation with them. Maybe we can partner. You can help me buy this and operate it. Well, all of these were simple conversations. I left voicemails. That's all I did this morning. That's how simple it is. I'll tell you a quick story about a business that I have not yet acquired, but I'm sure I will. And this is how I've done some of them. I did a little research, 15 minutes, and I looked at this site, e-commerce site that I really liked, and it's in a space I know pretty well, and that I'm equipped to do well and grow more in that space. This is about 5 years ago. I researched who the owner was. I looked him up on LinkedIn. I read articles about him, and then I wrote him a nice handwritten letter on my letterhead and mailed that to him. 2 days later, I got the nicest phone call from that gentleman, and he told me he was amazed that I wrote him such a nice letter, that it was so in touch with everything he's accomplished. And by the way, in my letter, I was 100% sincere because I'm not going to lie, but I did praise him for the success that he's had in operating this business for 30 years. And then he said, well, what do we do? How do we get together? He is 5 hours away. I told him, how about lunch tomorrow? He couldn't believe that I would go visit him and have lunch 5 hours away. I drove 5 hours, had lunch with him, and I drove right back. He showed me the business, all that. So all that happened in about 3 days from the moment he got the letter to me visiting him. And now we've had a great relationship. We've been to sporting events together. Uh, he's visited me down here when he's been in the area here in South Florida. So I'm sure I'll end up buying that business from him when the time is right and when he's ready to retire, which should be any day now. But that was all laying the groundwork to set up that relationship. That's kind of, you have to set up a pipeline for acquisitions. If anyone here is listening on, and maybe not just Marcus Woods, but anyone else who's looking to potentially acquire someone, it's a pipeline, and you don't know which one of those leads. It's just like, it's funny. You're trying to buy someone's business, but it's really like you're trying to sell, because you have to fill it up with with possibilities. I probably have 30 to 40 in my pipeline of businesses that I could acquire eventually. And by the way, some of those may start calling any minute now, right? The economy is going to get a little rough maybe, and things will happen. You can't control sometimes when that happens, but you can control the effort. So my suggestion, if you, Marcus, if you could get a warm introduction from a friend, that would not hurt. A nice handwritten letter, sincerely praising this person for their success, and saying that you'd like to learn from him and have a conversation from him, and if you could offer your services in any way, you'd love to get together and connect. If someone doesn't uh, reply to that and they read it, it's probably somebody you don't even want to buy a business from, I think, because you want to have that ongoing relationship, especially in what sounds like you're doing a pretty big deal. You would want someone who'd be willing to be nice enough to at least answer you, and that's somebody you probably want to buy from. Next question is from Roland Bernath. And the question is, I work in a family business where my father has had the business for a long time. I'm in my 20s and just started working in that family business. I'm looking for resources and advice on how I can influence my father to be open to new ideas that I bring to the company so we can evolve and grow. How can I approach him? How can I create that working relationship where he'll trust me to do more things so I can grow the company? Let's see. Roland, fantastic question. Fantastic opportunity that you have on your hands. Great problem to have. I wish I could have eased my way into business and not had to have figured it all out myself. So you have a great opportunity here. You've probably seen the way your dad operates the business and probably learned a lot from him. And the next step is now bringing in your fresh ideas. Here's the problem though. Your dad saw you do some stupid things in your day. He's your dad. He saw you eat dirt. He saw you get in trouble for the stupidest things, and that's in his head. That's hard to take out. That's never going to go out. So he's always going to think of you as that kid. There's nothing you can do about that to switch it overnight. But you can start making little changes that are going to maybe make him think, you know what, this kid's not that bad. Maybe what he has been suggesting about this, and this might work. But that's the way you got to approach it. You're not going to change your dad overnight. See, if you're in your 20s, your dad's in his, what, 40s, 50s? So he's set in his ways, most likely. Can't teach a old dog new tricks. So here are some thoughts. You said you want to influence him. I believe you may have been the word I read there. Here's what I would do. I would work really hard, and I would show him my dedication to that business. It's got to be sincere. If it's not, then it's going to come through. But you have to show your dad because by the way, if your dad's been in that business for a long time, he put in some work that you have no idea what he did. And I say that as a father of four. My kids, I tell them what I've done, but they didn't live it. They weren't there the 16-hour days. They weren't there 7 days a week. they weren't there a few years without a vacation. They didn't see any of that. They're benefiting from what I've built over the years, over the decades, and I may tell them these stories. They didn't feel the pain that I felt, right? They didn't go to work with a high fever of 100 because they had to get things done. They didn't see me do that. They were little. They were in diapers, or it was before they were born. So, so you got to work really hard and know that this is a long-term play. You're not going to convince your dad to give up and give in to you overnight. And if I could recommend a book that I've recommended so many times, probably here I have as well, because you said specifically, let me see if that's the word you said. I believe you said that you want to, yeah, you said, how can I influence my father? Well, one of the best books ever written was written by Dale Carnegie in the 1930s, I believe, and it's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Every time I speak, I get asked, that's usually a typical question, what are some top books that you recommend? And that's on that list. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. You want to win your dad over? You want to influence him, like you said? Read that book and put it into practice. You're going to become a new person if you start implementing what's in that book. Let's see, the next person is Zach Nock, N-O-C-K. So Zach asked, is it okay to ask potential customers what their budget is for projects? I offer commercial and residential security products, such as security systems and cameras. I'm going to be honest, our cameras and security systems are not the cheapest on the market. Zach, nothing wrong with not being the cheapest on the market. In fact, I think that with something like a security camera, most people aren't going to look for cheapest. So that's a great selling point for you right there to say from the beginning, we're not the cheapest and we're not the most expensive potentially. That might sound good. We're usually the right fit for people. We're not some bad quality cheap thing, and we're not the most expensive bells and whistles that you may not need in a system. I think that in itself is a good selling point. But going beyond that, personally, when I'm being sold, I hate giving a dollar value because I just feel like, well, what is this? They just want to know how much to upsell me up to. If I said I want a $10,000 system, it might have been 8,000, but now they're going to charge me 10 because I said 10,000. So know that that's possibly a preoccupation, a worry that the potential customer has. But if it was worded to me differently, I can only speak for myself. I don't know what the rule is on this, but if you explain to me, hey, I'd like to know your budget for one reason. It's not to oversell you. On the contrary, it's to find you the right fit because you might have this number in your mind that says 10,000 is about the right number, and you don't tell me that. I'm going to go do all this research and I'm going to do all this investigating for you and present to you $100,000 or a $40,000 plan when 10,000 would have been the right fit for you and it would have given you everything you need. So if you tell me that dollar figure in advance, what you think the right budget might be, I'll present to you the best I can do, the best price, the best quality, the best at $10,000. If you told me that, my guard would come down, which is a huge benefit when you're trying to sell me something or sell somebody something. So that's my recommendation to go about that approach. All right, give me 1 second. Let me take a quick sip of water, and then we'll get to a long question here, but a good one. All right, the next question is from Michelle Adams. And the question is, I was contacted by a major chocolate supplier who has 25 chocolate academies worldwide and is now launching online courses. I was contacted to teach courses that would help bakery owners both during the pandemic and with their businesses in general. I went through an interview and I'm being asked to submit a proposal on what I would teach and how much I would charge. I know what to teach. I'm going to focus on a portion of my proprietary process for success in the bakery business, but only teaching a portion of the full class I'm creating to launch soon. Meaning she's preparing a whole curriculum, but this is just a portion that she's going to be selling here. The person who runs the online chocolate academy told me that teaching a portion of a class I already have is fine. I hope to get some of their students to follow me and buy my full class. I have no idea how much to charge in the proposal I have to submit. This is something that could really help me with social proof as I create the consulting and coaching part of my brand that I'm in the process of creating. But at the same time, I want to charge appropriately. Any help on how to price my services for this would be appreciated. Well, so Michelle, as you know, I've spoken to Michelle before. I'm a coach, right? So I coach businesses, and it wasn't until I met AkaShawnThomas, until I got involved with Accelerator, that I actually started a coaching business. I was retired. I was barely doing anything. I was working 4 hours a week and just doing high level decisions in my businesses and not worrying about too much. And now, are you sure you want to get into coaching, Michelle? It's crazy. So, so I didn't know what to do. I talked to a few people. Sean gave me some good advice, and then I spoke to a few others who have experience in that. And whether I was given this advice or not, what evolved and what I figured out is that for me, it helped to start cheap, right? And consider it learning. So you paid for college. I know, Michelle, you've been advanced, you have an advanced degree. You've paid for a lot of college. So you paid to learn something. But in this situation, it's different. They're going to pay you and you're still going to learn something. You're going to learn this business of coaching that you might want to get into, right? Or you're going to learn if you don't want to get into it, but you're going to learn and you're going to get paid for it. Now, all that college you paid for, you paid. And here, what I'm saying is, why don't you just get paid a little bit instead of you paying? But you don't have to go kill it in the beginning because then you might close a lot of doors and you might miss out on some really good opportunities. And if you want to get this thing going and let it go viral and people to follow you, then I think you make it in a way that could be the most attractive possible. So let's see. So you got to start somewhere. You can increase your rates over time. When I started coaching, the first few months that I coached entrepreneurs, I I presented this to my forum of business owners that I get together with every month, and they all laughed at me and said, "How can you charge so little? You're worth so much more than that." But I wasn't worried. I wasn't doing it for the money at all. But over time now, I have charged a lot more. Um, so I do recommend um, just get in and get started because that's usually what holds people back. Oh, I don't know. Do I do it at this? Just get in, whatever. Get in at a low price, and you'll learn. And the next time around, you'll realize, okay, that wasn't worth it at that price. However, I would do it for this. But don't think too much about it. Just get going, is my opinion. All right. Next question is from Jonathan Jean Baptiste. And he asks, I have a mobile detailing business, which is doing very well during the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm really shocked to hear that. That's fantastic. I was recently approached by a customer who wanted to partner up and bring the business to a neighborhood where he knows people will pay for the service I provide. He offered a 50-50 split between us and said he would provide marketing, a website, a portal for clients to make appointments, and the whole 9 yards. I would make sure that the work is being done and that the cars get detailed and washed. Would you partner up with someone like this? Well, Jonathan, what would it cost to hire somebody to do, let's see, to do the marketing, whatever that means, build a website, and have a portal for clients to make appointments? And I don't know what the whole 9 yards means, what that additional thing is, but marketing, set you up on Google, um, maybe pay for some ads. I don't think you need a major professional for a small local business to do that. A website, Upwork.com. You can find somebody in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Philippines, India, China who will build you a website for, I don't know, a simple website for a car detailing business, but that might look nice. I don't know, $1,000 might be a good price. I don't know. I don't build websites and I don't have websites in that world, but it's not an e-commerce site with a complicated amount of apps behind it. This is not high power stuff. Now, a portal for clients to make appointments, that already exists. It's an app and you can just have it customized for you. They white label it, I'm sure. And by the way, I've never even researched that, but I'm saying it pretty confidently because we put a man on the moon in 1969. I assume in 2020 there are apps out there that will have your name on it. You put your name on it, and it allows people to do their appointments. Barbershops have that. This isn't a he's not uh, inventing anything. He's just putting some pieces together that I think you might be able to do that on your own. Here's why I'm saying all of that. You know, partnerships could be fantastic, and that could work. But the problem is, you might regret it. Not in the beginning. In the beginning, it's super fun, super exciting. You've got a page. You're professional now, and then it kicks in. Then you realize, wait, he built that website already. It's just sitting there, and he set up this easy app that helps people make appointments with me. He set up some text messaging to send alerts. By the way, up until recently, when I canceled getting them, I used to get text messages from a guy who used to come detail my cars. All this stuff's out there. It's very simple. It's not a very sophisticated car washing business, the one I used to hire, and he had all these things. So don't think of this in the excitement of today. First of all, sleep on it. You don't have to make a decision today, but think about it on your worst day. You don't want to see another car. You don't want to wash another car. You're exhausted. And yes, this person brought you some volume, but guess what? You're paying 50%. Would you work for 50% less money? If the profit at the bottom, here's your sales, here's your cost of soap and machines and labor and all that stuff, and then all these other expenses, and at the bottom you make X amount, would you be willing to cut that percentage in half and share it with this guy who set it all up in a month and he's done and he's sitting back not doing much else, but you got to give him 50% for life? Think about that. I think I've seen this happen a lot. I have a client with a multi-million dollar dispute, very similar things. My client set someone up in a business and got them going, and they have an agreement, they have a contract. My client owns a percentage of that business, and my client is getting tens of thousands of dollars a month in profit on his little percentage because he set someone up in a business and taught him the business. Well, that person's not happy anymore. He doesn't want to pay him his 20, 30, 50,000 some months that he has to pay him, and they're having a dispute. Of course, because it was so easy to set him up and teach him the business and then walk away. And hey, they have an agreement. He's got to keep paying that for life or get out of the business and non-compete for 2 years. But now there's a problem, right? There's no problem until there's a problem. So keep that in mind. I've seen it happen. All right, let's see. This is the last question that I actually had a chance to review. So I reviewed a good number of these, and then I'll get into a few if we have time that I did not get a chance to review. So the next question is Desiree Maraglia. When you have a small company with so many people wearing so many hats, what's a good assessment tool to use to find out what their best fit is and what can be taken off their plate and hired out? That's a great concern of yours, Desiree. When a company is very small, everybody does have to wear hats. First, I'm going to recommend a book, and then I'm going to tell you what I use in my business. The book is called The E Myth, which is the entrepreneurial myth, and the author is Michael Gerber. I got to meet him after reading a few of his books, so that was really cool. Great book. It's just on how to properly structure a small business with an organizational chart, right? So we have this position. Whoever's, you don't even worry about who's in it right now. You just, we need this, we need this, we need this. And then you start filling in who should be handling those things. And over time, you can change them. Now, as far as a tool, I have a gentleman with something like 60 years of business experience who runs a predictive index. I think it's what it's called. Call it PI. I think it's predictive index. And he runs those for me he's run them for my employees, but he's also run them for clients of mine. And I make nothing when he does it. I just recommend people to use him because he's very good. And he not only reads you the results, which by the way are right on. I've run the predictive index on myself, and it's as if I would have written all of that or my wife would have written all of that because it gets me so well. It knows who I am, and I've run it for employees. And like I said, clients, coaching clients of mine have run it with their employees. Phenomenal, amazing results. It's called Predictive Index. I'm sure anybody could run it. The guy I happen to use is like 80 years old, and he's been in business for like 50 or 60 years. And so he reads you the results, but he gives you his opinion, he gives you his experience, and it's really, really good. It's eye-opening. It is important to have the right people in those right seats. It's also important, I think, to be clear, throwing people at problems isn't always the solution. I highly recommend improving the process. So making sure that you have a really good process so that people are needed less every day, right? Because people make mistakes, but a really good system, here's what we do, then we do this, then we do this. Anybody can do that. It's the reason McDonald's is so successful. They hire low-skilled workers who thrive and can, so a crew of six low-skilled workers can serve 100 lunches in a few minutes with no problem because the system is really good. So have a good process, and then if you can automate. I don't know what your business is, but automate as much as you can. Don't ever touch things twice. If you have data here, you should not be retyping it to put it here. And what most people end up in when they're very small, what they do is they hire somebody. Hey, you got to get this data, you got to copy it, you got to paste it over there. Why don't you just write something that does that automatically? And that's how a bigger, more successful business thinks, and that's why it's hard to compete. But you're small, you're nimble, you can make those changes, hopefully. All right, one more sip of water, and then we'll go to the next question. Okay, so next question is from Lauren Feldman. I'm a real estate agent and interior designer. I know I want to build my own brokerage and be the brand that other agents join, and I would help them. If you were going to develop a plan to make this happen, how would you do it? Okay, let's see. So you want to become a broker. So plan number one, you have a real estate license. Start studying for the brokerage exam if you haven't already. Become a broker, have that license. It doesn't mean that you have to go start an actual brokerage from day one, but get your license and get that going, right? The next is, my from my own experience, and you're going to think I'm biased because I am a business coach and I coach very successful entrepreneurs. I would recommend hiring a coach, but I would also, because this is a multi-step process. This isn't where you're just going to do this one thing and you're done. You've got to go. You're here today and you want to get here. You need to take a bunch of small steps, and they're small, but you need accountability behind it. The other thing is, I would look for mentors, and who would you guess those mentors would be for you? They'd be brokers who have done exactly what you want to do. So I have a friend who owns 4 medical offices. They have MRIs and they do all kinds of scans. Extremely successful, very big. Well, he was a tech. That's all he did. He was a tech. I think like radiology tech or something. And now he's the CEO and owner of this 4 chain of large medical facilities. Very successful. And he started as a tech, and he went away on a weekend. I believe his wife and him, with another couple, they went away for the weekend. And the gentleman from that other couple was very successful and had built up medical practices. So, what did my friend do? He picked his brain all weekend and he told him, I want to do what you've done. I need your mentorship. I need your guidance. If you could just direct me, I'm going to have some questions. And they set a plan and he started executing. And I think maybe within 10 years, he was an ultra success. And this is a big business, doing a lot of business. So that's my plan to you is find those brokers and be open with them and say, here's where I am today. I want to do what you've done. And if you could help guide me, if you can give me your opinion, not maybe one of those mentors alone won't tell you the entire thing, but if you have 2, 3, 4, 5 mentors, however many it is, and you invite them to coffee, invite them to lunch, go out with them, pick their brain, praise them for their success so they want to help you even more. Oh, by the way, and read How to Win Friends and Influence People because you are trying to influence some mentors here. It's almost like a sales game. You're trying to get them to help you help yourself. So, mentors. All right. Next question. Next and final question is from Gigi Robin. She says, Hey Joel, thanks for taking the time. I started thinking dropship was going to be the easiest way for me to start my e-commerce business, but it isn't going as fast as I would like. In general, what are some of the pros and cons these days to dropshipping as a business? And if you were starting your e-commerce business over, what are the initial steps you would take to get started if you were on a low budget? Okay, so low budget is always a killer. So I was, I started with nothing, but I always had a full-time job, a part-time job, a hustle on the side trying to build a business. So I understand about the low budget. Step one is increase your budget. Start working more. Start Ubering on the side. I don't care what it is. Whatever it is that you can drive revenue now because you want to use that income to put it into this business that you have a vision for, right? So your question about drop shipping. Here's the problem with drop shipping. And by the way, I've been involved with drop shipping for 20 years. We don't do it anymore. But in the beginning, when I never heard anybody talking about that, I learned about it and I started doing that. Uh, so the way I built it up was I started representing brands and I had exclusivity and I had store the brands and I would get orders from websites and I would send it for them. Then pretty quickly I started realizing I didn't really need all these websites drop shipping for me. I could handle it myself. In fact, I could just turn them off. Thanks for building the brand. Turn them off. You don't need them. And people just Google the product and come directly to whoever has the supply. So very difficult to grow as a drop shipper. You're selling someone else's products. They're offering it to the world. So you're one of 50 or one of 100 or one of 1,000 trying to sell the exact same product. And the margins are slim because they're charging you a handling fee, a shipping fee. It's a very difficult model. So um, that might not be the best way. It is a way to get started and get some experience, but you said it's not going as fast as you'd like. By the way, things never do. Nothing has ever gone as fast as I'd like. But yeah, I get what you're saying. So that's the benefit. You said what's the pro and the con? The pro is you don't have to invest in a brand. You can get someone's stock and start selling it overnight. You can start getting some client information, email addresses, purchase history. That I do think is good. Those are the pros. The negatives is what I've already said. And let me put let's see here. Sorry, while I write a note, because I just want to, after I answer this question, I want to close off with something. All right. So let's see. If I'm starting my e-commerce business over, what initial steps would I take? I would have probably have created a brand earlier on. And yes, it took a lot of money. I shared it with AO before. My first brand of my own, because I was distributing other people's brands, my first brand order was $80,000. I didn't know if I was going to sell or not. I hedged my bets. I didn't take a crazy bet. I did contact customers and say, wholesale customers, if I built this brand, would you place orders? Would you support me? And I got that kind of a little bit of assurance before I bit the bullet, but still, I had no POs until I had products. So I would have built a brand and started working for myself from day one in that sense. Because when you sell other people's things, you're really building a brand for them. So it isn't just about, if you have your own brand, you probably make more money. But on top of that, it's more longevity, right? Because if I buy your brand of sneakers or I buy Nike that you sell me, well, I'm going to forget about you, but I'm going to remember the Nike brand because that's what I'm wearing. But if you sell me your own brand, every time I look down at my shoes, I'm going to remember that brand. And that's what stays in my mind. And that's who I'm going to be more loyal to. Hope that makes sense. And here's another thought that I wanted to share with you guys. I get this sense from early entrepreneurs when they're starting out is that when I hit, I'm here today, and when I hit this level or this one or this one, everything's just going to go great. It's going to go really well. I just need to get to that level. Well, guess what? When you're here, the problems that you have are pretty small compared to when you get here. And then when you get here, the problems get bigger. And it never goes perfect. It really doesn't. And you might hear these gurus online preach how great a life they have, and hopefully they do. I know I have a pretty good life because I've designed it a certain way and I've lived below my means and I've done certain things to make it well. But I was thinking today and yesterday, I had a couple of phone calls in one of my businesses that were a little uncomfortable. They were fixing big problems, and I had to have that conversation with two different vendors trying to fix something, communicating between two different countries outside the U.S. and these are multi-million-dollar vendors that I really spend a lot of money on. I've spent millions with them, and it isn't just about, hey, fix this product. No, it's information, it's data, it's a lot of stuff. And I thought, man, nothing ever just goes perfectly, right? Doing business is easy. It's all the people that you have to deal with that get in the way that make things complicated. And guess what? There's always going to be people for the foreseeable future. So we're always going to have to deal with it. So enjoy the process that you're in right now. You might actually miss it. If you're doing 2 million a year or you're doing 10,000 a year right now, 50,000, 100, whatever it is, enjoy where you're at. One day you're going to double or triple your sales, and then you're going to say, wow, those were pretty good times. I wish I would have enjoyed them a little bit more. Because in the end, that's all we got. We got this journey that you're on. It's not perfect. It's not beautiful. It doesn't go like that. It's going to zigzag. It's going to go really good. You're going to get really excited, and then things are going to go really bad. It's going to do a lot of that. So try to enjoy this journey that you're on because it's fun. And if you do really love it, you'd probably just be working for somebody and not doing this entrepreneurship journey. So enjoy it. Thanks for joining me. I hope you guys got something out of it. If you want to connect with me anytime, you can find me at joelgandara.com, and you can contact me through Facebook as well or LinkedIn or any of those. Thank you guys.